Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to, I think, what is day 7 of the RotoWire #Euro DFS show. My name is Jack Burkart. You can find me on Twitter at Jack Burkart. I'm joined, as usual, by Ryan Belongia. We're going to talk about tomorrow's 3-game slate that features England against Denmark and a pretty big showdown, at least, a big match between Spain and Italy. Wanted to break down what happened today here first, though, Ryan. It was a really frustrating day early as chalky Lovro Majer for Croatia got subbed off after Croatia looked really, really poor early on. Germany handled Hungary just fine with Musiala getting the goal and then Kroos getting a ton of corners. Feel bad for you, Ryan. I can just assume how the Kroos fade may have paid off. At least other players got there. And then we kind of had a somewhat interesting 1-1 draw. Shaqiri scored one of the finest goals of the tournament. Ryan, I wanted to ask you about your 5-5-5 team because I'm looking and I like all these plays, but you only had one player in the late game, and it was Shea Adams, who we didn't even know was going to start. So, Ryan, I kind of want to ask you, mad scientist over here, what were you thinking?
Well, that was not my team initially. That's funny. I Shea Adams. Yeah, I got a message from somebody else too, like, "Oh, you ended up on Shea Adams after what you said on the pod, huh?" Like, well, I didn't have that initially, but after Majer put up 4 points, I figured I was in big trouble, especially if I wanted to get first place. But even to cash, busting that hard with the midfielders that were to come. So yeah, I was just searching on Twitter for Scotland lineups, and the few that I found had Che Adams, but even there were some others and some pundits talking that maybe there was even a small chance that this James Forrest guy was going to start at right wing back instead of Ralston, I believe. He was 3,900. So I figured maybe, if Che doesn't start, maybe there's like a percent chance that it's Forrest and I can do that. Anyways, but I wanted to do it to just, I had to get up to Musiala. I had to play Middlestat. I had to catch up in every way possible. I thought Neuer, and I said I wasn't going to pay up for keeper either. I wasn't planning to. I initially had Ndoye at forward instead of Che Adams, and I was punting keeper to get up to Musiala or Kroos. So yeah, I had to gamble on Che because I need goals, and I figured even it didn't turn out to be true. Ndoye had more goal upside than Che Adams, but I was hoping that Che might. And yeah, it just let me get to the plays I wanted, like Musiala and Neuer and Middlestat. Really, I was just trying to cash after Majer busted. Worked out okay.
Yeah, it works out for a healthy 3.7. I don't know. I'm not going to worry about the decimal places. It looks like it helped you have a nice day. And I don't know, that's late swapping intelligently. And I think it's a good lesson for trying to find any lineup edge that you could. Like I was struggling on Switzerland, so I don't know. Maybe I have to do a better job on a Twitter list. I mean, Ryan, were you just going to eat the Shea Adams sub if it didn't work out? Like you're whatever.
Yeah. What could I?
Had to, yeah.
Yeah, I had to. It would have. Yeah, I wouldn't have really had an option.
Yeah, geez. I'm going to try not to complain too much, Ryan, because I actually think I kind of played bad today. So I don't know. I should at least be honest. I'm complaining that I think I played bad, but played well, but lost. I should at least admit when I played bad. Ndoye not scoring those goals, I had Ndoye just all over the place. In the late slate where I had some good lineups, I had a lot of him in Showdown where he showed up. And I don't know, he's probably chalking Showdown, so maybe it didn't matter too much. But I feel a little aggrieved. I had Mbappe miss a good chance. I have Ndoye missing some good chances or having some called off offside. So one of these days, my forwards will start scoring goals for me, and I'll be pleased about that. Ryan, in cash today, I came out with a really Croatia-heavy setup. Perisic started at left back, and I plugged him into the machine, and he looked solid, and I was kind of bullish. I DM'd you. I'm like, I think there's some attacking upside here. He has some ridiculous game logs. I don't know, just watching him, he got there because of game script, I think, but Perisic looks kind of cooked. Like, I remember him he used to be one of the most pacey players on the field, but he looked slow. Like, he was getting outran by, like, Asani on the other side for Albania, who played well. The big decision was what I want to do with Mittelstadt, and he's a player who kind of had, like, ridiculous friendlies and some games where he was a little bit anonymous. and I was really uncertain what to do with that. I kind of projected him in the middle when I probably should have leaned a little bit more. Like, he's a player who has really good floor for club. Ryan, he's chalk. He gets like 13 floor points, gets an assist. He probably should have gone over 20 without a yellow card. It's not one player every time, but I deserve to lose, in my opinion. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I think deserve to lose is harsh. I didn't think he was a must, but yeah, I ended up on him partly because I was afraid not to play him. Just I thought he would be the most popular, and obviously he has upside, so I kind of wanted to block. I'm just laughing at my cash team. It also has Che Adams, and that was not my original cash team either. But when I had Meyer and Modric combined for 15 or whatever, I retooled a little. Yeah, it worked out. I don't know. Can't complain. You know, I took a stand on Lovro Meyer. It might have been a little dumb on this slate where there were so many good midfielders. I mean, it was very high risk. And all the other midfielders did well. Basically, Cruz, Musiala, Shaqiri, McTominay, Gundogan, Asllani. So like I got to just be happy to escape the day, you know, with a decent day with Meyer busting that hard as my highest owned player. But yeah, you know, late swap can help. I mean, just always pay attention to late swap. You're not dead on these slates.
No, especially not with 5 points. I mean, Cruz and Musiala both got there, but you know, Cruz has 5-pointers in him. Musiala has 2 shots and subbed at 60 minutes like Verts was. That type of thing can happen. So always be willing to swap. Ryan, I think the thing I could have done to improve is I just kind of was going to play Ndoye, but it's not like he was this spectacular play. I mean, he didn't really project well to me. Ray Minaj, I mean, these guys scored 2 points, and I punted forward so many times and DraftKings and Premier League, and have just gotten absolutely hosed. But I saw that Redcoat did it. I think Pew 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 did it. I think Third and Schlong did it. A lot of good players opted for this 3,600 Ray Minaj, and that helped you spend up twice at midfielder. So I'm kind of comforted that maybe I was just like a swap away from the right thing. Leaning into Croatia seemed good. Redcoat played Perisic as well. So maybe just being more open to the punt forward in this case, especially when maybe in Premier League there's going to be a lot more floor points. I can maybe eat a low score.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think he was the correct cash play. I would agree with everything you said. I thought about it. I played him a ton in GPPs actually. Just made sense if I was trying to spend up at 3 midfield spots and defender on a bunch of lineups, and that was really the only way. I think the reason I ended up not doing it in cash, I'm trying to remember. I don't remember, but yeah, I thought he was fine in cash. I don't know. I don't remember why I didn't do it. But yeah. Anyway, I thought. I don't remember, but I was thinking, you know how there were no German forwards on this slate. I just kept thinking, what if Sane happened to start? It would just, I just, and it wasn't just that. It was just in general, I wanted to keep my options open. Like, what if the Scotland lineup gets leaked and Che Adams is starting, or this 3,900 Forest is starting? Like, yeah, I just didn't want to lock too much up because I had already locked 2 midfields. I don't know. I think that's what I was thinking. But in general, yeah, I think for 3,600, just because the slate had no forwards, so why not, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think we talked about, oh man, we're playing Kramaric. Like, Kramaric was 80% in cash. This was like ridiculous. Like, if you just told me anything about a slate and that Kramaric was chalk, I would be like, well, what happened? And forward was very weak, so it was viable. So, Ryan, I agree 100%. Any last thoughts on the slate or the games today, Ryan?
No. Well, yeah, no. I feel like I had some thoughts, but I'm on to this next slate already.
Survive and advance. Ryan, it's a different slate than what we've seen usual. Like, we've seen a clear favorite just about every single slate so far. And usually one of the games projected to be like a pretty good fantasy environment. And I'm looking at this slate, and I'm not so sure. So England are the biggest favorites against Denmark, but that's about like 57% to win. The implied goal total is 1.6, so no really high implied goal totals on this one. I don't know. We know how England play. They don't really seem appealing to fantasy for me. Serbia is favored against Slovenia. Slovenia showed some juice, and Serbia might have some players. And then we have Spain against Italy, which might be a bit of a cagey affair. Two good teams. Ryan, the best fantasy environment might be the first game, Serbia, Slovenia. What are you thinking when you look at these three matches?
Yeah, and all those players are super cheap. The first thing I thought was you could leave 5,000 salary on the table, no problem. You could leave more than that probably, and not even be sacrificing that much. Yeah, just on the slate as a whole, can't really find an outfield player that I'm, super excited to play, or that's like even that I would call a lock. It's funny that maybe the best cash play on the slate might play for the biggest underdog. Is kind of what I was thinking. In Christian Eriksen. And whenever I don't know that that's true, but I think he's up there. Whenever that's the case, I don't know. I like these slates. It's a true play whoever you want slate. It's kind of a ball knower slate, maybe if you have some takes, if you can predict some of these games. But there's some cheap prices. I think there's a few good defender plays, but I think forward and midfield is wide open.
I completely agree. I thought when I projected the game environments, I'm like, oh, Christian Eriksen, 8,400, maybe we don't have the salary, but the optimizer run jammed him in. So, I mean, he's got a great set piece role. And like you said, Ryan, there's a lot of cheap pieces worth playing. Everyone on Serbia is fairly cheap. Even Dusan Tadic, if he starts, he takes a lot of set pieces, 7,600. Dusan Vlahovic, 5,300, I think, for really good goal scoring odds. A lot of interesting plays overall. The Spanish forwards even got priced down. So I have to think again about Nico Williams at 6,800 after he busted in the first slate. It's going to be tricky. And yeah, I agree. This slate was mostly loaded with value. Ryan, before we dive into things, it's been really tough to predict lineups, and I've been trying to read many sources. These are the lineups that we have on the board. In particular, we're not projecting changes for England, though that could happen. We're mostly similar lineups for Spain, Italy, and a back four. I think that's how I think you got that one right on the first slate, Ryan. And I think there was an injury to Filip Kostic. Do you see any fragility in these lineups that, guys who you think might not play or might play that might be a fantasy relevance?
I think the lineups look pretty good. Yeah, I think Kostic is out for the tournament, so we're going to get this Mladenovic starting at left wing back. He actually took some sets, but that was before Tadic came in, I believe. So not sure I would expect him to take sets, but I still think he's a decent play in an advanced role. England, yeah, the two, Foden and Trent are the two that aren't locks, because Kane, Saka, Bellingham, and Declan are for sure starting. And I could see them going unchanged, but could also see Gallagher in for Trent, and you could see anyone in for Foden. They could put any attacker in for Foden, or he could start again. I don't really have a strong lean on that one. And then, yeah, the other game, Spain probably will be unchanged, I would think, and Italy too, probably, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Italy, that's a team.
I don't know about
Morata.
I don't know. Is he healthy? I haven't checked.
I can check the blurb on Morata. I think it's
yeah,
okay.
he's good. He's good.
He trained. Yeah, that's good to see. Yeah, so we'll see. Like I said, I don't really want to. I'm not running to the podium to play Anthony Gordon if he's on, even if England might play a little bit better. That game the game environment just kind of stinks. But let's start to dig into it, Ryan. Forward position, some plays that stuck out to me. Tadic, 7,900. I mean, Serbia, it should be a decent spot for him, and I think he takes a set piece monopoly, so that's appealing. Vlahovic at 5,300. The set piece takers on Spain are playable. You have Nico Williams at 6,800. Maybe you get 70 minutes of him. Yamal played 85 minutes. He's a young player, so maybe he's going to have his minutes dialed back later, but he had an assist, and he looks pretty good. And Ryan, when there's a lot of value, at least, I shouldn't say salary soft, Harry Kane as the most likely goal scorer. I mean, he takes penalties. He's also an option. Who are you thinking from an optimal point of view from forward? I think there's a lot of ways that you could go.
There are a lot of ways you could go. Yeah. I echo a lot of what you said. The Spain forwards, yeah, Nico Williams and Yamal splitting sets. I think 2 points last time from Nico in that route of Croatia. I mean, I think that's on the table again here. I think it'd be very surprising to see him with like double digit four points. Very surprising. I think Yamal will play longer, and I think Williams is sub first. And so I think the pricing's pretty accurate there. I would try to get up to Yamal, but just in general, I don't mind Nico at that price. He is quite a bit cheaper than he was. Tadic, yeah, for sure. I think I'd be comfortable with Tadic in cash. I think I would for sure play him. Just on a slate where there's not a lot to feel good about when it comes to floors, and it's a good matchup for Serbia. And then, yeah, Vlahovic, not a traditional cash play or someone we think of as a cash play, but so cheap here and just a really good forward in a good spot. So I think I'd be comfortable with that in any format. And then, yeah, I wasn't expecting you to mention Kane yet, but man, I hate playing England guys, but Kane makes more sense than I thought he might on this slate, just for what you said, for everything we've said so far. The goal would really help. And yeah, he has the best odds. His price is down now. So yeah, I think that's fine too.
Yeah, I was surprised that he was showing up at 9,500 in my first draft of projections, Ryan, but he is. And I think we're on the same page. I don't really want to do it, but I also get it. And if people go there, a goal can make a huge difference on slates with low floor just like this. Who do you like in tournaments, Ryan? It was disappointing to see Mitrovic come off at 60 minutes. I just want to double down on Vlahovic. He's like kind of a volume shooter. I know he was really highly rated talent as well. Juventus have just kind of been bad, but like this is a top end player, I think. Some dirt cheap options. We have Verbic in the starting lineup for Slovenia. I don't think you really need to spend down at forward, so that's not showing up. Italian forward's expensive. You can really play anyone, Ryan. Oh, are you willing maybe to go back to the Denmark forwards in GPPs? Maybe Denmark, if you play some Eriksson, Denmark might possess the ball a little more. Højlund looked horrible in the previous matchup. It was kind of embarrassing to watch him. But do you see yourself going crazy at the forward position?
I don't know that I see myself playing Denmark. I'd almost rather play Wind. Just it seemed pretty clear that he has a higher floor. I don't think either of them are too likely to score, but they could. I don't think anyone would really play them. I'm more interested in that Serbia-Slovenia game. Yeah, Vlahovic in any format, like I said, but he's just way too cheap for the type of player he is. I mean, he's still one of the top-rated forwards in the world. I mean, there's still rumors that Arsenal would love to sign him this summer, and he would start on Arsenal next season. So, I mean, that's how good he is. Another guy who Arsenal would love to sign is Ben Sesko on the other side, who obviously I'm going to play. I mean, he showed some flashes in that first game, those two shots. I mean, you don't see many players capable of doing that. Honestly, they're like jaw-dropping stuff. So I'm definitely going to play Sesko. He's cheap. I think it's a fine matchup. He can score every type of goal. And then I think those Italy guys will be low-owned, but I'm just usually not in the business of playing too many forwards against Spain. So I don't know that I'll get there.
Me neither, Ryan. I just don't think they're all kind of expensive. Who's going to score a brace in that later game? I mean, sure, it could happen. I just don't feel super confident in it, especially when you consider costs. It's probably going to be a slate, Ryan, where even in GPPs, my forwards are all going to be filled after the first game, whether it's spending down for Sporar for some reason, who showed a decent floor. Sesko, as you said, probably just a lot of Vlahovic and a lot of Serbian options. Yeah, it's tough to play the forwards in the later games. So why not play the cheap guys earlier who give you some flexibility a little bit later on? Any other takes about forward, Ryan, or maybe move on to midfield?
Yeah, I think move on. I'm going to stick to those goal scorers. We mentioned Kane and then all those guys in the Serbia-Slovenia game. Yamal, maybe Nico. That's already a pretty big forward pool.
Yeah, especially on a 3-gamer. Looking at midfield, Christian Eriksen's 8,400. Any game featuring England's probably going to have a low fantasy output. It's going to kind of be a slower game. Even so, Ryan, Christian Eriksen looks pretty good to me, and the role is certainly elite. I think he would take a penalty. Correct me if I'm wrong. He takes every single set piece. He was absolutely terrific in the first match against Slovenia, although England are more difficult competition. I don't know. I think you just take the role here, Ryan, because you have cheap options you can play. On the Serbian side, you have Sharon, who's 3,800 and should take some set pieces. It looks like he took from both sides. Cheap Serbian midfielders, Milinkovic-Savic is 4,100. Zivkovic had a good floor in qualifying. He's 3,800. I think there's more cheap options, Ryan. I don't know. Who do you like at midfield?
Yeah, it's really, do you need it? Do you need to go that cheap? I think those guys you mentioned are fine. That guy from Slovenia, on most slates, he would almost be like a lock. If we wanted to spend up forwards and spend up defender. But like on this slate, I can see myself not playing him. I don't know. He's fine though. Obviously taking most of the sets for them. Yeah, I wasn't really expecting you to mention Milinkovic-Savic, but I didn't see that he was that cheap. I was going to bring him up for GPPs. I've always been a big fan of his. He's kind of been forgotten about since he went to Saudi or whatever, but he was the heart and soul of that Lazio team for like 7 or 8 years. And it wasn't too long ago that Premier League teams were trying to buy him for like 80, 90 million. Like he's good enough to be the best player in that game. So I think he's a great GPP play. I would play the Slovenia guy in cash though. Yeah, actually, I think that's about it. Yeah, Zivkovic too. So yeah, just guys from that game. That game is way underpriced.
I don't really get it. Like, it's tough to explain, like, how we get that cheap of pricing. But I don't know. You said something in a previous show how like maybe it's the third game and they had to price some people cheap, so it ended up being here. So yeah, I think you're gonna see punts all over that range. Yeah, I was surprised that Milinkovic-Savic looked good, but I don't make the news. I only report it. What about the midfielders from these other games? It's tough for me to want to play midfielders that don't have set pieces against England. You'd have to spend up for Bukayo Saka, Jude Bellingham, and Phil Foden, and one doesn't really feel good about that. But maybe sentiment is so poor on England that there's some contrarian value in playing the biggest favorite of the slate. Imagine saying a sentence that ridiculous. It could be true though. I don't know. Fabian Ruiz got priced up. A couple cheaper options in the Italian midfield, especially maybe someone like Pellegrini who takes set pieces. Anyone in the later games interest you at midfield, Ryan?
Yeah, a little bit. Saka, Bellingham, and Pellegrini. Just because of the type of slate it is, like Eriksen's just going to score like 10 points a lot of times. I mean, probably like most times. He doesn't really. There's just not a lot of opportunity cost, I feel like, on this slate. So, if one of these other games would be like, Germany, Hungary, or like we've had games on every single slate where there's been at least one big favorite, sometimes two big favorites, but there's nothing on this one. So there's just not much opportunity cost. So yeah, I have interest in, all the top guys, Bellingham and Saka, and then Pellegrini we saw for England is going to take most of the sets and kind of run the show for them. So I think that's fine, just as like a leverage play, contrarian plays.
Yeah, Italy are underdogs, and it's tough to want to play them. But in GPPs, I think it's a fine move to consider. I know you've mentioned Pedri. He's being tipped to start here. He's someone who can create some chances, so maybe a mid-priced option you can get some assists. Yeah, it might be surprising. There's probably going to be like randomly low-owned guys at midfield who have some upside who play for talented teams. So I'll be interested to see how it shakes out.
Like, playing Jude is like very similar to playing Kane. Obviously Kane has better goal scoring odds because he takes pens, but Bellingham is also one of the most likely players to score and has like a floor from other stuff too, at least from midfield. He's probably the most likely midfielder to score.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point, especially with Eriksson scoring 10 a lot. It's or even worse if the set
right, even worse.
Way.
Eriksson has worse yeah.
Ozzy's in the chat asking, why is Rodri 6,800? I have no idea, Ozzy.
Maybe because his goal scoring odds are boosted because he took that pen and might be on pens.
Yeah.
Or maybe just because they carry his price over from Man City.
Yeah. Well, no one likes to take me to the torture chamber more than Rodri, but I don't think this is the spot for him for 6,800. I'd rather gamble on the England midfielders that you mentioned, Ryan. Maybe we can move on to defender. There are some decent options. We have a 3,900 Eric Janza. He took a couple corners, and he had about like a 6-7 point floor in qualifying, Ryan. I think he's a decent play, and Serbia aren't prohibitive like competition. So in spots where, okay, Slovenia are underdogs, but Serbia are not world beaters, in World Cup, we've seen the underdog have some chances and maybe flash a tiny bit of floor. So I think Janza is an okay option at 3,900. You certainly don't need to go there, though. You have Fede DeMarco, who played 80 minutes and should split some set pieces, I think. I don't know, Ryan. I think we did have him down for some corners. Pellegrini did take some. And then who am I missing on my defender list? TAA, if he starts at 6,500, he still has to have some interest. He's a player who can pull some strings with some chances created and take some corners. And then finally, the 4,100, the Mladenovic for Serbia. I don't expect set pieces, but it should be a good spot for a wingback who likes to cross.
Yeah, those were the four guys I was going to mention. Our boy Eric Janza. I mean, who would have thought after sort of making fun of him and getting beat by him a few days ago?
He's probably going to be chalk.
I mean, he should be chalk. He should be the first defender in, I think. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Alexander-Arnold, yeah, DeMarco's still taking sets too. I just think Pellegrini probably takes a few more, but yeah, some sets for DeMarco, and then Trent probably takes most of England's stuff, but I don't see him playing longer than 70 minutes. And yeah, like I think he's an underdog to have over 10 floor points, so I don't think that's like a must. I think it's fine though, because he has upside. He can score, assist, and kind of really separate from the position. So yeah, I don't mind playing Trent, but I think I'll just punt Jansen. The thing is, though, the reason like you don't really need salary. Like if you're playing a bunch of cheap guys, you could play Trent and DeMarco if you want to. I just kind of think the two cheaper ones, I think their floors like aren't that much lower. At least that's what I'm hoping.
That will help you spend up at midfield. Like if Janza, it's going to be a tough matchup for DeMarco, I think. Even like you're going to ask how many set pieces are Italy going to get? Spain will probably have an edge in possession. There is like mild sub risk right there. I mean, there's, I think, plenty of outcomes where Janza outscores or the difference is negligible and you're left with 2,000 salary difference just by going to the Slovenian Serbian guys. And Ryan, that does give you outs to goals if you want to spend up at midfield. So I think there's a good strategic point there. I always think, got to spend up a defender, but there are like quality, cheap options we can play as well.
Comment in the chat from Ozzy about Stojanovic. Yeah, I could see him starting too.
He's really cheap, right?
I missed that one at the start. Could see him starting on the wing. How much is he? 35. Yeah, I think that's fine. Like more of a tournament play. I don't think you really need to go there and cash on this slate. But I know he scored negative 2.2 last slate, but he was actually high up in the box sometimes, and he actually nearly like got on the end of a breakaway. And I've seen him do that before. Like he doesn't have a floor, but he gets in good positions way high up the field. So there is a chance for an assist or a goal. I mean, we saw both Hungary, but especially Bola in that game against Germany today. They both had chances to score. Those two Hungary wingbacks. I mean, that just happens. We saw it. We see it in all these tournaments. I think I remember that that like Fiola guy scored last tournament against like Italy or something in the first, or against like Spain or some like massive favorite. Sometimes those are the guys that end up farthest up the pitch for these underdogs, like on a counterattack.
Yeah, interesting. Are you sure that you weren't just maybe a little wish casting on Bola since he landed on him in cat?
No, he actually almost scored. Should check what his stats were today. I think he had multiple shots.
I should. I think I rolled my eyes when I saw that initially. I wasn't really considering Bola, on Hungary, but maybe I have to kneel.
No, I wasn't either. But yeah, I got there somehow.
Yeah, it happens. Would you be interested in either of the Denmark wingbacks? Both pretty active players. Baum might be as cheap as 3,800 if he starts ahead of Joachim Mæhle. I don't think I can get there, Ryan, but I mean, they're cheap, and I'm kind of considering maybe playing a few Denmark players in some of these GPP teams because you could play three players, Eriksson, Højlund, and then one of the wingbacks. I don't know. England are a team that can concede floor. England looked unconvincing against Serbia. Denmark are certainly at least of that capability. I just don't mind it when I don't think the late game is going to be that good.
Yeah, I don't mind it either. They have upside too. Just got done talking about wingbacks. I'm always fine playing them.
And what about the set piece king, Danny Carvajal?
Man, Danny Carvajal, what a legend. I'm not going to get there on this slate, but obviously it's a fine play. He's going to be contrarian like he always is, and he just continues to show that he has goals in him. We know he can assist too, and he scores all different types of goals. I mean, he's in there on corners. He's kind of everywhere. I mean, just a great player. So
this is kind of like a bit, but it's like Danny Carvajal to me is like big game player. Like,
it's true. Yeah. I mean, look at it. He's played in as many big games as just about anybody, but he's been like the starting right back on Madrid in Spain for about 10 years, it feels like. And he just always shows up in big spots.
Yeah. And then one last name, Ryan, I think you might be the captain of the Gio Di Lorenzo fan club. In a back four, the floor is not so good, so I'm actually not very interested, especially against Spain. But do you think you see yourself landing there?
No. Their formation looked more like wingbacks to last game. I think that's what it'll be again with Di Lorenzo in a back three and Chiesa as the other wingback. DeMarco as a wingback and Chiesa as a wingback. At least that's what I think it will be if we see that same team. So no, I don't have any interest in.
If that's how it plays, then forget that.
That's definitely how it played the last game.
Yeah. All right, sounds good. Goalkeeper. I don't know. It's goalkeeper.
I finally got it right today.
Yeah, Neuer, the legendary Neuer game. He got 3 saves. A nice save, too, against a pretty good Soboslai assist. So we just talked about some of these favorite goalkeepers not having save upside. But, anything can happen. They'll score over 14 quite a bit. And 3 saves goes a long way for a goalkeeper who has 50% clean sheet odds. I don't know. I don't have a particular lean on anyone. I probably don't want to play Schmeichel because England shoots so low. There's just not a lot of shot volume there. So I think that's less likely to be save volume. Although Schmeichel will be cheap and maybe you fancy, Denmark might be able to win. I don't know. I'm probably just going to click whatever fits at the end of the day, Ryan. Do you have anything, any nugget, any lean that takes you one place over the other?
My lean was Simone. But no, I don't have too strong a take. Don't really want to keep her from the first game, probably. I assume most all of my lineups will have Serbia players, at least one. And then probably some Slovenia players too on a lot of lineups. So it probably won't be a keeper from that game. But I don't really have a take. Yeah, I was going to say what you said. We saw England. What did they had 5 shots, I think, against Serbia, I think. So, no, I don't really want to play Schmeichel, but you're right that the clean sheet's in play for Schmeichel. I mean, the 1-0 result is in play there. So I'll have some in tournaments, definitely. I'm not sure you need to punt though on this slate though. You might have the salary, so I don't mind playing Pickford. I don't mind playing Simone. I don't mind playing Donnarumma. It'll be one of them probably.
I think my take is Pickford. England are not that great a favorite, but they still have good clean sheet odds. Denmark rip a couple shots. It's the Neuer thesis for this one. I think Pickford actually is a favorite who can get saves.
Yeah, me too. Said it on the last show. It's hard to create quality chances against England. So yeah, I think I Pickford good clean sheet odds and can get saves too, because we know that England can't really control a game in the second half, and they'll give up 4 points and some shots.
Yeah. And one last thing, as I think it through, Jan Oblak might be a very contrarian play if we have cheap Serbian forwards and everyone's playing a few Serbian pieces.
Yeah, very.
Imagine that. So especially on a 3-gamer, that's something that it's at least worth considering. Though I won't play it's not like playing the an underdog goalkeeper against Portugal or something like that. So I probably won't dabble in there. But if you just want to fade Serbia, definitely hit Oblak because Serbia is going to be chalk.
Yeah, and Oblak's got good save upside here. I think those Serbia forwards are going to rip shots.
Yeah, I also just think Jan Oblak is really good. So the vibes meter, it's off the charts with Jan Oblak. So I feel like he's always got some heroic games. And 36 minutes in, I think we covered just about everything. It's a play whoever you want spot. Ryan, any final takeaways for the people?
No, I thought it was a pretty concise, good breakdown. Yeah, it's going to be a fun slate. It's a different slate than we've had. We haven't had a slate like this yet. There's been big favorites on all these slates. Pricing's been tight on most of the slates, and we have neither of that here. So, yeah, it'll be fun.
Nice. And if you haven't been playing or you're just running into the stream, you can join us, rotowire.com/chat and the Discord. Discord is absolutely popping. Subscribe to the channel, subscribe to rotowire.com link, the soccer trial link in the YouTube. Give us a like and a thumbs up. I think those are the same thing. Leave a comment, do all that good stuff. It helps support the program. Thank you very much to those in the chat. Good luck in your contests tomorrow, everyone. And Ryan, as usual, we will see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Jack. Good luck, everybody.